Hello and welcome to the collapse experiment. If you like this video or any of my previous content, please like and subscribe. I watched a video a couple days ago asking the question if we were in a recession because dancers, exotic dancers, are not making money these days. Apparently there's a lot of these girls that are posting these videos about how, there's times where I might bring home $1,000 in a night. And then the rest of the week I might take something home. Okay, well that's your chosen profession or side hustle. I don't know. From my understanding, a lot of these girls tend to work like 6 to 8 hours dancing, trying to bring in money. So, it turns out, now, my knowledge on this topic is 20 plus years ago. We're talking 2000, 2001-ish was where my experience took place. Do I think that it's a sign that we're in a recession? Oh, heck yes. I also think it's a sign that men in particular are no longer interested in wasting money on what essentially is just a fantasy. Like, there's several other ways they can go about making themselves feel better than going to a place and having somebody dance in their lap for the length of a song. What is it, like 2-3 minutes? They never even play the whole song. So let's just say it's like the later Beatles slash punk rock Green Day type stuff, right? You might hear a song that you like, you're getting a dance, and then before the song is over, it switches over to something else and she's gone and you're out. Well, back then it was $20. So, when I was younger, there was a place in town called Deja Vu, and I had two friends. One was a roommate, and the other guy was a friend of his. Just about every weekend, they would go out to Deja Vu, and they would always hang out with the same girls. That is where I have to say the girls were pretty smart. So it was Nate and Rob, and Nate still lived at home with his mom, college age, but worked full-time as a cook in a restaurant, didn't pay rent. Him and his two twin brothers all lived at home. And Nate just hadn't really, he was one of those guys that pretended that he had everything figured out when in reality he didn't know crap about just about anything. And if you called him out on it, he would get really aggressive and pissed off at you and start talking a bunch of shit until you backed off. But at the same time, like, he never would have had the guts to actually like throw a punch or anything. It was just that aggressive behavior to like help his ego heal over. he can forget about what you said that pissed him off, but walk away knowing that he taught you something. So there were 3 types of girls at this place. And it's the stereotypes that you've heard before. The college student, the single mom, and the drug addict, usually coke at the time. I don't know what it would be today, and just everybody there smoked weed. It didn't matter who you were, everybody smoked it. And a lot of times, these girls were either all 3 at once, or they had been one of the 3 at any point in time. So they could have been the college student, dropped out of college, became a single mom, got into drugs and became a single mom. But in any case, it was always one of those 3. And then there were the girls that went into the adult films, which those places are basically recruiting hotspots for that industry. And Kalamazoo did have, I don't know if it was an actual company, but there were guys that were running around trying to get these girls and dudes to star in their films. So how it worked for Jordan. Jordan was the girl that Nate was always seeing at this place. And the only time he ever saw her outside of the club was when he hadn't been there. Usually like his car broke down or something. So he liked to walk in and just blow his entire fucking check on her, is what would happen. And if he didn't stop by for 2 weeks, she would stop by his place of employment with one of her friends. And at first, I didn't even know what was going on, because I didn't even recognize her, because people look totally different without a shit ton of makeup, black lights, having clothes on. But she would stop by and say, "Hey, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. I just got worried." Yeah, like you really care. No, what you're worried about is making rent on your upscale apartment, or your car payment on your 1 to 2 year old, what was it? It was a Grand Prix at the time. Like, this dude is seriously paying her rent and her car payments. And I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but that's what these girls do, is they'll show up to play into the fantasy of, like, this could be a thing. Meanwhile, they've got like 3 or 4 other dudes that they're doing this to, sleeping with none of them, maybe one of them, maybe. And he I don't know when he stopped. I know later on, like, the 3 of us had a falling out when I started dating my ex-wife. All of a sudden it goes from like visiting chicks at the club to homies over hoes, if you know the Boondocks reference. And later on I ended up running into Rob, and we caught up for a little bit. And he was actually married to one of the dancers there. He had become the DJ at some point. So all of a sudden he's not a customer, he's an employee, which, you know, employees dating employees, they can't say anything about. But the place had a strict policy. You couldn't see customers outside of work because then it was considered prostitution. Because they had given you money for a dance or whatever. You know, money exchanged hands, and then if you're sleeping with them later, it could be argued, well, that was the money that he paid. So Rob ended up marrying one of these girls, and he was trying to do the whole knight in shining armor, where, you know, he was getting her out of the club. I was going to make a decent woman out of her. So this dude, she's already set up for a certain type of lifestyle, right? She's expecting to make a certain amount per week, to be able to do what she wants. And a lot of these girls, they get addicted to the extras for working at the club. Like the spray on tans, the shoes, the several closets full of shoes, the nice car, the nice apartment. They have this expectation. So when they get married, the guy has to not only keep that expectation up, but exceed that. So Rob ends up working like 70, 80 hours a week at his like crappy $12 an hour job. And she's getting pissed because they're still living in an apartment. And he comes home one night and she's not there. And he's like, what the hell? Because his whole idea was like she didn't have to work anymore. Which, of course, if that was your profession, you're not going to go from dancing where you're getting like $20 for 2 to 3 minutes worth of work, working an 8-hour shift. I mean, you can do the math as to what they might be pulling home, to office, serving in a restaurant. Like, no, they're not going to go to that. It's like housewife or nothing. And so she got pissed off, and he came home. She wasn't there. He waits up. She comes home at 3 a.m. So right away he's like, I know what the hell you were doing. It's like, dude, that's how you met her. Like, you're surprised? Are you out of your mind? So they get into a fight, and she pulls out a wad of cash and throws it on the table and says, that's our effing down payment for a house. Get your shit together. Well, Rob comes from a family where nobody in his family has their shit together, so of course he doesn't know how to do that. And last I heard, they had gotten divorced, and he became a tattoo artist. Just not surprised. Like, none of this is surprising. Like, you listening to these stories, like, then he did what? Of course he did. Of course he became a tattoo artist. So, guys not going to the club anymore, a huge sign of a recession or an enlightenment. Guys are not interested in hoes. There are a lot of decent guys out there are tired of dating. They're tired of looking for someone, honestly. I know I got to that point. And then come to find out, like, you do take somebody out, it's very obvious from the get-go she's not interested in you. So she already spent your time, spent your energy and effort, right? Because you gotta think about, where am I going to take her? Someplace nice. Maybe you shave, trim up the beard, put your nice clothes on. And then you get out and it's obvious maybe she just wanted to go to the restaurant. Like, she wanted to go eat out, didn't care who it was with. And the fact that someone else was going to pay for it. Right? You know, they talk about guys using women for X, Y, and Z all the time, when in reality, a lot of these women are just using guys to live a certain lifestyle without the commitment, without the responsibility to provide it for themselves. And the goofiest part is when you meet somebody, and I like how they're starting to be referred to as leftovers, right? It's like all these assholes and douchebags basically, think of it how you want, whether it's in one room at the same time, like that chick that everybody's talking about right now with 100 dudes. It doesn't really matter if they're like at the same time, right? It's just during their 20s, they will make a series of just horribly bad decisions for the absolute wrong reasons. And then when they hit their 30s, they're like, you know, maybe it's time for me to be an adult now. And so you end up with somebody who they might have a couple kids now with an asshole or several assholes. And it's like, you're not just with that person now. It's like, now they have kids, and the kids are going to look at you one way or another. Like, are you a father figure, or are you just some dude because mommy had just some dudes several dudes ago, right? So there's the repercussions of that. And then you got to deal with the exes. And you know, how often did the ex come around because they had that connection and he'd get something here or there, and now you're in the way of that. So all these leftovers are getting very pissed off. It's like, why do people look down at me for being a single mom with 2-3 kids? Well, because obviously you didn't make very good decisions earlier in your life, and now all of a sudden you want to make good decisions? No. The key indicator that you're probably going to get divorced is whether or not you were divorced before. Like, the odds just increase the more often you get remarried. That's where we're at. A lot of guys would just rather not get married, not deal with it. I've met several guys that once they got divorced, it was like they were just done. Like, nope. Like, the penalties from the courts, the emotional damage. I know women don't think that guys go through anything like that when it comes to divorce, but oh no, you just devoted, like, you know, your 40-hour a week job, all that effort, making sure that they're provided for, roof over their heads, food, luxuries, you know, all the bullshit. And then 15, 20 years later, they say, you know, this just isn't working out for me. By the way, I'm taking half your 401k too, and, you know, there's going to be an issue when Social Security comes up. And the videos that crack me up the most are the ones where the girls, they do leave, and then it's instant regret because they suddenly realize, oh shit, I had it pretty good. And yeah, that was something I learned about a couple years after me and my ex split. Was this was somebody, I don't know whose fault it is or how it happened, but she was never taught how to take care of herself. First time she ever got like a checking account, first thing she did was bounce checks, like several. Well, nobody told me I had to have the money in the account. I thought I could just put it in there later. No, that's called a credit card, and don't ever get one of those. So when she moved out after being together for 9 years, because we were together for 2, got married for 7 at the time of our divorce. Like, getting an apartment. She traded in the paid off car. This pissed me off. She took the paid off car, traded it in for something else. So she had a car payment, full coverage insurance. And at one point she calls me up bitching about how the gas for her new RAV4, she couldn't believe like how much gas she was burning. Well, no shit. You went from a 99 Corolla to a freaking mini SUV. What did you think was going to happen? But no, it was like 2 years ago. She sent me a message on Instagram, and somewhere in there she said, "Oh, it was the best relationship I ever had," and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, sitting there looking at my phone like, why the fuck did you leave? Like, what the hell did I do wrong? Granted, she was a train wreck, but good lord, like, we did get married. So I don't get it. I don't understand what the thinking of these chicks is. And she was a big feminist too, my ex. I don't think she understood what like that meant. She couldn't take care of herself. And she was always getting pissed off. Like, we were doing P90X and some of those workout programs, and she would get so pissed off because she couldn't do a chin up. And I'm like, and then she's getting madder at me because all of a sudden I'm doing like 15, 20 chin ups in a row. And she was like, this is bullshit. I'm like, guys and women are built different. Like, you can leg press way more than me. And she's like, you're saying that we're not equal. We're not. We're not. Get it through your thick skull. For one, I'm taller than you. Everyone was taller than her. So does it make sense that you're going to be able to do all the physical things that I can do? It's the mental illness of ideology. That was another case of it. So anyways, are we in a recession? Probably. Is there something else going on? Definitely. Men are just tired of it. That's what it is. Tired of the bullshit. No longer willing to play the games. Looking for adults. Adults only. You want to play fucking mind games? Go somewhere else. Vámonos. So, that's about it. Keep on typing.